next hour. I want to talk about these issues. We're going to bring in Republican Representative Martha McSally. She is also on the House Armed Services Committee and the House Homeland Security Committee. Representative, thank you so much for being with us.
Absolutely.
So yesterday, the House passed a measure that will require the president essentially to come up with a plan to deal with social media in battling terrorism. What are you after right here?
Well, this was a unanimous recommendation, and it was part of a bipartisan task force that I served on well before Paris. In March of this year, the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee created a task force. For 6 months, we took a deep dive into the threat of ISIS, the threat of foreign fighter flow, and homegrown extremism. And this is just one challenge that we have, that ISIS is using social media in a very sophisticated way. They have estimated 200,000 pro-ISIS social media posts a day. They are trying to inspire individuals to take terrorist attacks into their own hands where they are, or recruiting them to come over and join the fight. We know of 30,000 individuals that have traveled from 100 different countries into Iraq and Syria, and those areas are now expanding into Libya and other places. So this is a very sophisticated threat, and they're using social media like we've never seen before.
And Congressman, you lay out right there, not only everyone agrees that it is absolutely a problem, but you also lay out right there the huge challenge of how to respond to it. I mean, I'm interested to know on what you would like to see in that strategy, because we had on last week Alberto Fernandez. He's the former head of the office that was set up in the State Department to do just that, to counter the propaganda on social media and on the internet that ISIS and other groups are putting out. And he says that that office has always been underfunded, under-resourced. They don't have enough personnel. So what are you willing to put into it?
Well, what's frustrating is the administration identified this as a threat in 2011 and said that they really needed to come up with a strategy. Really haven't seen one yet. We've been pushing on them for that strategy. Again, we delivered our 52 recommendations from our task force to the administration in September. They're just continuing to be behind the ball. There's a couple of different elements. One is countering the message, as you mentioned, and that's overseas, but also here at home. We have investigations in all 50 states, about 900 individuals, and those are the ones that we know of. What we've seen with the threats like in San Bernardino is a number of individuals are staying below law enforcement's radar, and those that we don't know of, and this is a challenge. What also happens is ISIS is, in a very sophisticated way, in a cell in Raqqa, Syria, sending out these messages, seeing who takes the bait, seeing who retweets, and then they start doing private messaging, and if they think they have someone serious who might want to plot something sophisticated, they then go dark. It goes into one of these encrypted apps. This is unprecedented. It's the first time in history that even with a warrant, law enforcement cannot get access to the content of that communication. But it's a complicated issue because some of these companies are not American and they're overseas, and it's the yin-yang of technology. We also have increasing cyber attacks, and people want to keep their information secure. So we've got to figure out how to solve this problem, because we've got to keep ourselves safe from the cyber attacks and from the terrorists.
Quickly, the front runner in the Republican Party right now for president of your party, Donald Trump, has suggested that he's willing to shut down parts of the internet to battle the terrorists. Frankly, do you understand what he means?
I don't, but let me tell you that I have been very critical of this administration, that the caliphate had been set up by ISIS 18 months ago. The president just now is going to the National Counter-Terrorism Center. I worked very closely with that center when I was running counterterrorism operations at Africa Command when I was in the military. We have been calling on him to shut down ISIS in Iraq and Syria using airstrikes in a way that actually shuts down their capabilities to communicate, to lead, and to metastasize. It has been a failed strategy so far. He's late to the game. It's anemic at best, and he needs to start showing global and national leadership, because Americans are rightfully concerned about their security, and his response has been not appropriate.
So the response from Donald Trump, when you say you don't know what he means, he talked about it so much in the debate. I'm sure you saw it. On the balance, Rand Paul, who was on the stage as well, he says what Donald Trump is proposing is exactly what the terrorists would want. Do you think shutting down even a part of the internet is part of a plan?
We cannot sacrifice our way of life in order to keep us locked down and secure. The terrorists get their way. So we have to balance these things. But I've been asking, why is the internet still working in Raqqa, where these cells are actually growing and leading the ISIS terrorist capability. They're expanding in now 19 countries.
Can we take out the internet in Raqqa?
Absolutely. Why is the electricity still on? Why is the oil still flowing? I mean, we have been using air power in such a pathetic way. We have actually got to step up our game, study their centers of gravity, use air power for all it brings to the fight in order to put them on their heels. The fact that we've been plinking them with reactive airstrikes for now over 15 months, 15 strikes a day compared to like Desert Storm was about 1,000. And it looks like they're taking on America's air power and they're winning, and that just adds to their propaganda, their recruitment, their inspiration. So the lack of leadership, the lack of taking this seriously militarily and with a comprehensive strategy is actually allowing ISIS to metastasize. Our current commander-in-chief is failing.
Representative Martha McSally, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.